raised for meat is convinced he's a dog. Hi everyone. Today, I've got a story that's sure to surprise you, and maybe even change the way you think about animals. A chicken raised to be food, but somehow finding a way to live like a dog? It might sound impossible, but that's exactly what happened with Boo, a Cornish cross chicken who was rescued from a factory farm and ended up becoming an incredibly affectionate dog-like companion. Can you picture a chicken happily following you around the house, cuddling on the couch, and even going for walks in a stroller? Well, that's Boo for you. Join us on Animals Need Love to find out more. Boo's story begins on October 30th, 2017, when he was adopted by Mary Bowman. But his life before is just like any other chicken. A chicken was raised for meat. For the first 6 months of his life, Boo lived on a farm with lots of other chickens, where he was treated more as a commodity rather than as an individual. He was given food all the time during this time, which is basically a death sentence for a bird of this breed. This is because industrial chickens of the Cornish breed, which are called broilers, can't control how much food they eat on their own. They were grown this way on purpose so that they can gain market weight quickly and slaughtered for their body parts at 6 weeks old. Mary found out about Boo from a post on the Facebook group Vegans with Chickens. Someone there had seen an ad on Craigslist from a man who no longer wanted his mutant that looked ugly. Mary knew a lot about the Cornish breed because she had lost her beloved rooster Julian a few months before. He looked a lot like Boo. Mary was sure she had to save Boo. Driving to Boo took Mary 4 hours. When she got to him, he was so large that he could barely move. At only 6 months of age, Boo weighed 15 pounds, 6.8 kilograms. His extreme obesity had also impacted his oxygen intake. His comb was purple, referred to as cyanosis, and he was breathing heavily. He was also terrified. Mary was scared that he would die during the car ride home. Thankfully, Boo was still alive when Mary pulled into the driveway at her home that evening. Boo was scared and nervous around people at first. It took him a few weeks before he decided that his new humans were okay people. However, Boo remained terrified of other chickens, even when in the presence of non-aggressive hens. This was because due to his mobility issues on the farm, it left Boo an easy target for bullying by the other chickens. It was very traumatizing for him. Therefore, the Bowmans decided that Boo would do best living indoors as a house chicken. In the weeks that followed, Mary and her family worked tirelessly to help Boo adjust to his new life. Mary's house was a peaceful haven, and she created a quiet, safe space just for Boo. She made sure that his new environment was as comfortable and stress-free as possible. His food and water were carefully regulated to ensure that he wouldn't overeat, which was critical for his health. Over time, Boo began to show subtle signs of improvement. He started to feel a little more comfortable around the Bowmans, even if he remained wary of other chickens. But the one thing that really began to change was his affection toward Mary. Boo had never known love, and it took time for him to realize that the hands that fed him were not the same as the ones that had hurt him. Slowly, Boo started to trust Mary. He would watch her from a distance with his large, curious eyes, observing the way she moved, spoke, and cared for him. Mary's patience was unwavering. She didn't rush him, but instead let Boo come to her on his own terms. It was during one of these quiet moments, when Boo was sitting next to Mary on the couch, that he first made a connection. He slowly moved closer, inching his way toward her hand, and with a tentative peck, he reached out for affection. That was the first sign that Boo was starting to see her as more than just a caregiver. He was beginning to bond with her as family. Boo's love for Mary grew stronger every day. But somehow, Boo behaves even more strangely. One afternoon, about a month after Boo's arrival, Mary was sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She could hear Boo making his usual soft clucks and chirps from the other room, but when she glanced up, she was taken aback by what she saw. Boo had somehow managed to wedge himself between the couch and a small table where he was pacing back and forth. His head was tilted slightly, and his little legs moved quickly as if he was trying to get somewhere. At first, Mary thought he might be hungry or looking for something to do, but what happened next made her stop in her tracks. Boo, without any hesitation, trotted over to the door where Mary had just walked through a few minutes earlier. He stopped right in front of it, then turned to look at Mary, his large eyes wide with anticipation. It was like he was waiting for something, or perhaps trying to tell her something. Mary raised an eyebrow, unsure of what was going on, and then, to her complete surprise, Boo did something she never expected. He began to paw at the door, just like a dog would, using his wings in an almost playful gesture. He was clearly trying to get her attention, and it seemed as if he was asking to go outside. Mary laughed aloud, both in surprise and amusement. "Boo, are you asking for a walk?" she said, still trying to process what she was seeing. She opened the door to see if that was indeed what he wanted. Without hesitation, Boo waddled outside, his wings flapping as if he were a dog on an outing, excitedly trotting around the yard as if it was the most natural thing in the world. He walked right up to the grass, stopping to sniff the air, then looked up at Mary, clearly pleased with the attention. From that moment on, it became clear to Mary that Boo wasn't just a chicken. He was a chicken who acted like a dog. His need for companionship and interaction was unmistakable. Boo started to follow Mary around the house, wagging his little tail whenever she'd speak to him or move toward a different room. He'd settle by her feet while she cooked, or sit beside her when she was working at the desk, just like a loyal dog would. Sometimes Boo would even try to jump up on the couch to sit next to her, nudging his way into the seat as if to say, "I'm ready to hang out." The more Boo grew accustomed to his new life, the more he began to mimic behaviors that seemed more dog-like than chicken-like. Once Mary noticed Boo's dog-like behavior, it was as if a whole new world of possibilities opened up for them. Boo's adventures became something of a routine. He was no longer content to simply stay indoors. His love for exploration and his growing attachment to Mary meant that every trip, whether it was around the block or across the country, became a chance for Boo to be part of something bigger. Boo had developed a strong love for road trips, matching any dog's excitement when it was time to hop in the car. Whether it was a quick store run or a weekend getaway, he settled comfortably in his special seat, eagerly anticipating the journey. When the car stopped, he would perk up and cluck excitedly, as if asking, "Where to next?" One of their favorite outings was the beach. Boo had his own stroller filled with towels, snacks, and toys, and he loved the sensation of sand beneath him. Each adventure seemed to boost his confidence, helping him overcome past traumas. Boo's adventures extended to Washington, D.C., where they visited the Lincoln Memorial. When they encountered a "No Dogs Allowed" sign, Mary, accustomed to Boo's unique presence, decided to proceed anyway. The guard hesitated but ultimately let them through, leading to memorable photos and conversations about the famous chicken. Back home, Boo surprised Mary with his musical talents. He played a small guitar and keyboard with surprising skill, creating original compositions that reflected his unique spirit. Whenever Mary was around, Boo would hop beside her, tapping the strings or pressing the keys, leaving her amazed. "He's definitely the most musical chicken I've ever known," she would laugh. Boo also had a curious interest in technology. Mary often caught him sitting at the computer, pecking away at the keys as if composing an email to one of his friends. Of course, his emails were written in code that Mary couldn't decipher, but it didn't matter. Boo loved the process of typing, and he seemed to find joy in connecting with others, even if it was through a string of unintelligible characters. The more time Boo spent with Mary, the more his playful, curious nature emerged. He wasn't just a pet or a rescue animal. He was an active participant in the family, At night, Boo would often curl up on the couch with Mary and her husband, sitting between them as they watched TV. He had developed a particular fondness for cashews, and every now and then, Mary would share a few with him. It was a quirky little routine, but it felt right. Boo had become so much more than just a chicken. He was a cherished member of their family, someone who brightened their days with his boundless energy and unique personality. It was clear to Mary that Boo was a special bird. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving, living a full, joyful life. Every day with him was an adventure, and Mary couldn't help but feel lucky to have him by her side. After 6 beautiful years together, Boo's journey came to an end. On the afternoon of his passing, just after celebrating his 6th birthday, Mary sat by his side, heartbroken yet grateful for the time they had shared. Boo, the chicken who had defied every expectation, had lived far beyond what anyone had imagined when he was first rescued as a 6-month-old bird with a severe heart condition. Thanks to the love and care he received from Mary and their incredible vet, Dr. Bain, Boo had lived 5 more years of joy, adventure, and music. Though Boo had fought bravely, his heart finally gave way. This time, despite their best efforts, Mary and Dr. Bain couldn't save him. But as Boo passed, surrounded by love, it was clear he had lived a full and happy life, one that no Cornish cross chicken was ever meant to experience. Boo's story was one of resilience, love, and the unexpected bond between a chicken and a family. That's the end of the story today. What do you think about this story? Have you ever seen an animal's life change because of love and care? Share your story with us in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel. Animals Need Love so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support. Wishing you all peace, happiness, and a bit of Keanu's kindness in your own life. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. You won't believe what happened at Joe's fish shop one ordinary day. It started with a hungry cat. Nothing too unusual about that, right? But this wasn't just any cat. No, this cat walked into the shop with something very peculiar in its mouth. A leaf. Yes, you heard that right. A leaf. But here's the twist. The cat wasn't looking for a snack in the alley or scrounging through trash. This clever little feline had a mission, a very specific mission. What happened next would surprise Joe and everyone who came to the shop that day. Stay tuned for today's video, and Animals Need Love to learn more. Tommy Finch, the local fishmonger, had been running his shop on Willow Street for 5 years. Every day was busy, customers coming and going, the sound of fresh fish being sliced and packed, and the familiar hum of the neighborhood. It was the kind of rhythm Tommy had grown accustomed to, a steady flow of work that made the days feel both fulfilling and routine. But recently, Tommy had noticed something strange. There was a cat. At first, he thought little of it. A stray here and there wasn't uncommon, but this one was different. Every morning when Tommy opened his shop, the cat would appear, not in the usual alleyway or under the nearby bushes, but right outside his window. A small tabby with a soft coat and bright, curious eyes. The cat didn't seem to be in any hurry. It would simply sit there, staring inside, watching Tommy work. It didn't beg, it didn't meow, just an odd, silent observer. He named the cat Marble as the close customer. One afternoon, Marble wandered into the shop with a leaf carefully clasped between his teeth. Tommy had seen him visit many times before, but today was different. Marble didn't just sit by the window or lurk near the door. He walked right up to the counter, dropped the leaf in front of Tommy, and then sat down. His big eyes locked on Tommy, as if waiting for something. Tommy paused, taken aback by the cat's unusual behavior. Marble wasn't the kind of cat to demand attention, so Tommy wondered what he was trying to say. After a moment, it hit him. The leaf. Marble wasn't just sitting there, it was a payment. Just like the human customers who paid for fish with cash, Marble seemed to be offering the leaf in exchange for something. Tommy couldn't help but smile. It was the strangest thing, but in that moment, it felt like Marble had created a new form of trade, a leaf for a piece of fish. Tommy stood there, stunned for a moment. He had two options. He could dismiss Marble as a strange leaf-carrying creature and send him back outside, or he could do something he never thought he'd do, treat this furry visitor as a paying customer. After a moment of thought, Tommy made a surprising choice. He leaned over the counter, picked up a small piece of fish, and placed it in front of Marble. The cat's eyes lit up as he grabbed the fish and ran off, his leaf still lying forgotten on the counter. Tommy chuckled to himself. It worked. He had just made a deal with a cat, and it felt oddly right. From that day forward, Marble became a regular visitor to Tommy's fish shop. Every morning, like clockwork, Marble would show up with a leaf in his mouth, drop it on the counter, and wait for his fish. As the days passed, Marble's visits became an endearing part of the shop's routine. Tommy and the customers grew fond of him. People would smile whenever they saw the cat sitting patiently by the counter or walking in with his leaf. The shop's employees even started leaving fresh water out for him near the door, and Marble would happily sip from it before claiming his prize. Tommy and his regulars began to affectionately refer to him as Sushi, after the food he seemed so fond of. Marble, or Sushi as he was now known, had become part of the family. Every day he would come for his fish, happily accepting his meal in exchange for a leaf. It was a simple yet perfect routine, and Tommy couldn't imagine his shop without him. But little did Tommy know, what started as a quirky exchange would soon turn into something far more meaningful than he could have ever imagined. It was an ordinary morning at Tommy Finch's fish shop, until the door opened and Marble didn't walk in. Tommy glanced around, half expecting the familiar Tabby to appear at any moment, but as the hours passed, he began to feel an unsettling sense of worry. It wasn't like Sushi to skip a day. He always showed up, leaf in mouth, eager for his fish. Tommy went about his work, but his mind kept drifting to the empty counter where Sushi usually sat. By late afternoon, Tommy couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in his stomach. After the shop closed for the day, he locked up and set out to find his feline friend. He searched around the neighborhood, checked the park across the street, and even asked a few of the regulars if they had seen him. No one had. Tommy walked the streets, calling Sushi's name, but the world felt quiet and empty without the cat's familiar presence. He refused to rest until he knew Sushi was okay. Just as the last rays of sunlight dipped behind the horizon, Tommy turned a corner near the edge of town and froze. There, lying motionless by the side of the road, was Sushi. Tommy's heart skipped a beat. The little tabby wasn't moving. At first, Tommy hoped he was just sleeping, but the sight of blood around Sushi's body made his stomach churn. Without a second thought, Tommy rushed to the cat's side. He gently scooped Sushi up, his pulse racing with fear. The cat was cold, limp, and seemed barely conscious. But there was no time to waste. Tommy didn't care about anything else. He had to get Sushi to the vet, fast. At the animal clinic, Tommy practically burst through the doors, holding Sushi in his arms. Dr. Olivia Rivers, the kind-hearted vet, immediately took the cat from him and began assessing the damage. Sushi's small body was battered, his fur matted with blood, his breathing labored, and his side swollen from what appeared to be broken ribs. Dr. Rivers worked quickly, ordering an emergency surgery. "We need to repair the damage to his ribs and check for internal bleeding," she explained. "He's in critical condition, but we're going to do everything we can." Tommy could only nod, his throat tight with worry. He didn't know if he would get to say goodbye to his friend, but he refused to give up hope. The hours that followed were agonizing. Tommy waited in the small, sterile waiting room, pacing back and forth, his hands trembling. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Rivers came in with a weary but hopeful look on her face. "His injuries are severe," she said, her voice soft. "Broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a lot of blood loss. But he's hanging on. He's a fighter. We'll keep him under observation for the night." Tommy let out a long breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The news was better than he dared to hope. The next day, Tommy returned to the clinic, his heart in his throat. Dr. Rivers led him to the back where Sushi lay on a soft bed, hooked up to oxygen and IV fluids. His tiny body was covered in bandages, but his eyes, those familiar, mischievous eyes, blinked up at Tommy. "He's still a long way from fully recovered," Dr. Rivers said, "but he's stable now. He's breathing more easily, and he's starting to respond to us." Tommy sat by the cat's side, gently petting his fur. Sushi didn't get up, but he leaned into the touch, purring faintly. It was a small, reassuring sound, but it meant the world to Tommy. Over the next few days, Sushi slowly regained strength. His wounds healed, and the light returned to his eyes. Tommy visited him every day, sitting with him, talking to him, offering him little pieces of fish as a treat. With every passing day, Sushi's health improved. The vet staff were amazed at how quickly he bounced back, and Tommy's heart swelled with relief. The bond between them had grown deeper during those difficult days, and Tommy knew he couldn't bear the thought of losing his little friend. Finally, the day came when Dr. Rivers told Tommy that Sushi was well enough to leave the clinic. But there was a catch. Sushi didn't have a home to go back to. Despite all their efforts, no one had come forward to claim him. "He's a sweet cat," Dr. Rivers said gently, "but he doesn't have a microchip, and we've checked everywhere. He needs a home." Tommy didn't hesitate for a second. "I'll take him," he said, his voice firm with resolve. "I won't let him go to a shelter. He's part of my family now." And so, Tommy made the decision to adopt Sushi. After everything that had happened, after the search, the vet visits, and the countless days of worry, Tommy knew he couldn't let Sushi go. The little cat had fought too hard, and now, with his health on the mend, it was clear that he needed a permanent home. Tommy immediately set to work preparing a space for Sushi at home. He bought a comfy cat bed, a soft blanket, and a tall scratching post with dangling toys. He even got him a few squeaky fish toys, knowing how much Sushi had loved the real thing. The corner of Tommy's living room quickly transformed into a cozy, safe space just for Sushi. There was even a small bowl of water with a sign that read, "Sushi's Special Fish Treats," a reminder of their unusual but cherished trade. Sushi, ever the curious cat, explored his new home with cautious steps. It didn't take long for him to settle in, and soon he was lounging comfortably on the soft cushions or chasing the squeaky fish around the room with a joyful meow. From that day on, Sushi was no longer a stray. He had a place to call home, a loving owner in Tommy, and the entire fish shop as his second home. Every day, Tommy's shop became a little brighter with the presence of Sushi, who was now the official greeter to all the customers. He would saunter into the shop in the mornings, his tail high, a confident stride in his step, as if he were the king of the place. Customers, who had once watched the quiet cat from outside, now smiled as Sushi greeted them at the door, perhaps even offering a nod of approval. And while he no longer had to trade leaves for fish, Sushi still found comfort in his daily visits, sometimes curling up by the counter as Tommy worked, enjoying the familiar sounds and smells of the shop that had once been his temporary home. And so, Sushi, the cat who once wandered in with nothing but a leaf in his mouth, found his forever home. What started as a simple exchange became a beautiful reminder of how even the smallest acts of kindness can turn into something truly special. From a fishmonger's shop to a warm home, Sushi's journey shows us that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to lifelong bonds. What's the most unexpected bond you've formed with an animal? Or maybe you've had a unique experience that changed your life in a surprising way. Share your story in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel Animals Need Love so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support. Wishing you all peace, happiness, and a bit of Keanu's kindness in your own life. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Have you ever wondered about the bonds that form between animals? Typically, animals tend to interact mostly with their own kind, or at least with other animals that share similar traits. For instance, a cat might develop a friendship with a puppy, but those cases are the exception, not the rule. It's truly fascinating to watch how animals try to communicate across species and form relationships in ways we don't always expect. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to share with you the extraordinary story of a family of orangutans and their unlikely new friends, otters. Join us here on Animals Need Love to follow this amazing journey. But first, let me tell you a little about orangutans. How much do you know about orangutans? These incredible creatures are known for their intelligence and emotional depth, which is why they are often considered one of the most human-like species of primates. Native to the rainforests of Southeast Asia, orangutans are mostly solitary, spending most of their time high up in the trees. Orangutans share about 97% of their DNA with humans, which is why they are so fascinating to us. They display behaviors and emotions that seem so familiar. What about otters? These playful social creatures are known for their mischievous personalities and incredible agility in the water. Otters are members of the mustelid family, which also includes weasels, ferrets, and minks. They are excellent swimmers and are often seen diving, playing, and hunting in rivers, lakes, and coastal areas. While otters are also social animals, they typically form close-knit groups within their own species. Their playful nature, intelligence, and inquisitive behavior make them some of the most endearing animals to observe in the wild and in captivity. Now imagine the unlikeliest of friendships, a family of orangutans known for their intelligence and solitary nature, and a group of playful, curious otters. It sounds almost too good to be true, but it's exactly what happened at the Meadowbrook Wildlife Park. The story takes place at the Meadowbrook Wildlife Park home to a remarkable family of orangutans. This family had become the pride and joy of the zoo, captivating the hearts of thousands of visitors who came to see them every day. The family consisted of Raja, a 24-year-old male orangutan, his 15-year-old partner Tara, and their lively 4-year-old son Kavi. Raja, with his impressive size and wise eyes, was the leader of the group. Tara, though younger, was just as intelligent and playful, often seen interacting with the visitors and keeping a close eye on Kavi, the youngest member of the family. Kavi, full of energy and curiosity, was the crowd favorite. His playful antics and boundless enthusiasm made him a constant source of joy for those who came to visit. The orangutans were admired not only for their intelligence and strength, but also for their engaging personalities. Accustomed to daily visitors, they enjoyed the attention, often performing by winking, waving, or giving hugs through their enclosure. Raja, in particular, charmed visitors with his playful grins and flirty winks, earning laughter in return. Visitors would often gather around the large orangutan enclosure, eager to see the family interact. Some would lean in to get a closer look, while others would simply stand in awe, captivated by the orangutans' personalities and clever tricks. It was evident that these animals, especially Raja and Tara, understood the impact of their performances. They knew that the crowd was there to see them, and they reveled in it. The family thrived on attention and grew fond of the interactions. It wasn't just about food, it was the connection with visitors that brought the orangutans purpose and happiness in their zoo lives. For a time, everything was perfect. The orangutan family enjoyed their days in the zoo, with plenty of visitors to keep them company and the constant attention they had grown so fond of. But, as we all know, life can change in an instant. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, Meadowbrook Wildlife Park, like many zoos, closed to the public. For orangutans, Raja, Tara, and Kavi, this meant losing their main source of joy, daily interactions with visitors. The lively atmosphere turned eerily quiet. The change was immediate and stark. Without the constant attention, the orangutans' mood began to shift. They grew increasingly withdrawn. Raja, the once confident and charismatic leader, now sat in the corner of their enclosure, staring blankly. Tara, who had always been playful, became subdued, and even young Kavi, the little crowd favorite, lost his usual spark of excitement. The most alarming change, however, was their sudden loss of appetite. They would hardly touch their food, and they retreated into the cave at the back of their enclosure, refusing to come out. As days turned into weeks, the situation only worsened, their behavior became more aggressive, and their interactions with each other seemed strained. The family had clearly lost the energy and the connection that the visitors provided, and the caretakers, though caring and attentive, were not enough to fill the void. Zookeeper Max, who had spent years caring for the orangutans, saw how the family was deteriorating before his eyes. He understood the importance of social interaction for the orangutans. After all, these are highly intelligent and social animals, and without the constant stimulation of visitors, they were becoming listless and unhappy. Max feared that if things continued down this path, the orangutans would sink into depression and never fully recover. He knew that something had to change, fast. Determined to help his orangutans, Max spent hours engaging with them, bringing treats and trying to play. However, the orangutans recognized that he and his team couldn't replicate the unique connection they had with zoo visitors. Frustrated by their lack of motivation, Max realized they needed something more stimulating. An idea struck him. What if he introduced a new dynamic to their enclosure? That's when he came up with a bold and innovative plan, creating an artificial river that would pass through the orangutan's enclosure and lead into the home of another set of animals, the otters. The playful otters would provide a stark contrast to the orangutans, and Max believed their energy would reignite the orangutan's curiosity. He quickly set the plan in motion, and zookeepers built a winding river using natural materials, seamlessly blending it with the surroundings for the otters to explore. When the artificial river was completed, it didn't take long for the otters to discover the new waterway. Their curiosity got the best of them, and they eagerly followed the stream as it wound its way through the orangutan's enclosure, excited to explore this new addition to their home. As they reached the end of the waterway, the otters emerged into the orangutan's territory, and that's when the real magic began. Kavi, the young orangutan, was the first to notice the curious little creatures and immediately bounded over to investigate. His wide eyes were filled with both wonder and caution. Slowly, he extended his arms toward the otters as if to greet them. The otters, just as curious, approached Kavi, sniffing at his outstretched hands. For a few moments, the two species simply observed each other, sizing each other up in a tentative yet friendly way. Then, as if deciding they weren't a threat, they began to play. Kavi hesitated for a moment before reaching out. Then, to his delight, the otters darted toward him, and before long, the three were racing, and tumbling through the grass together. Not surprisingly, the adult orangutans noticed this strange exchange. As Kavi played with the otters, Raja and Tara watched with increased interest, even though they were hesitant at first. Eventually, the grown orangutans couldn't avoid getting in. Unbelievably, Raja, the happy father, walked over and carefully picked up one of the otters, holding it in his huge hands. Later, he let the little otter run around on his big hairy back like a parent might let their kid climb and play. In response, Tara carefully picked up another otter and let it run across her arms and shoulders. The interaction was heartwarming. The zoo workers, who had been anxiously watching, couldn't believe their eyes. What they were witnessing was a unique bond forming between two completely different species, one that no one could have predicted. As the days passed, the friendship between the orangutans and otters flourished. Kavi eagerly chased the otters in a lively game of hide and seek, with the nimble otters hiding under logs and in tall grass, teasing him to keep chasing. Raja and Tara interacted with the otters in their own ways. Raja allowed the otters to climb on his back and gently nudged them, while nurturing Tara fed them small pieces of fruit, treating them like family. The otters enjoyed their time, often curling up beside the orangutans or playfully teasing them. The zookeepers were amazed by this bond, documenting the playful interactions with photos of the otters on the orangutans' backs and Kavi joyfully running around. These remarkable images quickly circulated among the zoo staff and visitors, showcasing the extraordinary connection forming at the zoo. The most significant change was in the orangutans. Before the otters arrived, Raja, Tara, and Kavi were withdrawn and depressed. However, their interactions with the playful otters lifted their spirits, reawakening their curiosity and enthusiasm. The otters not only provided emotional support but also mental stimulation, helping the orangutans stay engaged and active. This bond became essential for their well-being, aiding their recovery from the emotional toll of isolation during the pandemic. Zookeeper Max didn't stop at introducing the otters. He enhanced the orangutan's environment with logs, trees, and plants, and introduced new games and puzzles to keep them entertained and challenged. The success of this friendship inspired Max and the zoo staff to explore similar pairings, creating controlled interactions between various animals like penguins and seals, kangaroos and pelicans, and giraffes and ostriches to foster new connections and enrich their lives. As the zoo reopened, the bond between the orangutans and otters remained strong, captivating visitors and boosting the zoo's popularity. People lined up to witness their playful interactions, snapping photos of the heartwarming sight. The orangutans, Raja, Tara, and Kavi often attempted to swim across the river to visit the otters, but struggled against the deep water and strong current. Despite this, their connection thrived, with the otters frequently spending time in the orangutan's enclosure, reinforcing their friendship. The extraordinary friendship between the orangutans and otters became one of the most talked about stories at the zoo, attracting thousands of visitors who were eager to witness this rare and heartwarming phenomenon for themselves. The unlikely connection between two very different species had blossomed into a beautiful and lasting friendship, providing both emotional and mental benefits for the animals involved. That's the end of the story today. What do you think of Max's idea to bring the orangutans and otters together? Do you think animals of different species can form lasting bonds like this? Don't hesitate to give your opinion in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel. Animals need love, so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support and see you next time. Hey everyone, I'm really excited to share a story with you today that touched my heart, and I believe it will resonate with you too. In this story, the lines between species, nature, and even family are really blurred. Imagine a loving Labrador taking care of tiger cubs whose mother left them. What would happen if these grown-up, mean tigers were just thrown back together with the one they thought was Mom? Would they remember her, or would they heed the call of the wild? Join us here on Animals Need Love to follow this amazing journey and witness a bond like no other. Leo is a man with an unwavering passion for animals and a heart as big as the world he's determined to protect. Known for his work as an animal protector and environmental advocate, Leo spends his days caring for animals at the local zoo and his free time rescuing those in need. Whether he's helping feed the zoo's residents or organizing rescues for distressed animals, Leo's commitment to giving every creature a chance is unmatched. One morning, on his way to the zoo, Leo spotted something heartbreaking by the side of the road. A little Labrador puppy, dirty and trembling, left all alone. Without hesitation, he gently scooped up the puppy and took her to the zoo, where he knew she'd finally find the care and safety she deserved. He named her Bella, and she quickly became the heart of the place, charming everyone with her joyful energy and warm spirit. Bella and Leo grew inseparable. She followed Leo everywhere, her curious eyes taking in the sights and sounds of the zoo. She seemed especially fascinated by the large predators in their enclosures, watching them with an unusual mix of interest and calm. Leo himself was deeply involved in wildlife rescue and conservation, dedicating much of his life to helping animals in need. As a member of several organizations that work to save wild animals across the globe, he often received calls from staff asking him to arrange care or shelter for abandoned or injured animals. No matter the situation, Leo always went above and beyond to support these animals, finding them places in zoos or shelters where they could receive the attention and care they needed. Bella seemed to sense her rescuer's compassion and commitment. She was always at his side, quietly observing as he poured his heart into giving countless animals a chance at a better life. But neither Leo nor Bella had any idea that soon they'd have the chance to be heroes to 3 unexpected arrivals, ones who changed their lives. 3 years after Leo rescued Bella, a call came through that would set an incredible story in motion. This time, it wasn't about a typical rescue. An organization Leo often worked with had contacted him about 3 newborn tiger cubs who had just been abandoned by their mother. The tiny cubs were in desperate need of care, warmth, and nourishment, and without help, they might not make it. Leo didn't hesitate. He arranged for the cubs to be brought to the zoo, setting up a cozy, safe space where they could rest and recover. But as he looked at the fragile cubs, an unexpected idea sparked in his mind. He knew that Bella, his loyal Labrador, had recently given birth to a litter of her own and had a strong, nurturing nature. Perhaps, just maybe, Bella might be able to offer the little tigers the comfort and motherly care they had lost. He decided to try it. Holding his breath, Leo gently introduced Bella to the cubs. "Hey, Bella," he murmured softly. "These little ones need a mom. Think you can help them out?" Bella tilted her head, her warm brown eyes meeting Leo's as if she understood every word. She sniffed the tiny cubs one by one, her tail giving a tentative wag. One of Leo's colleagues watching nearby whispered, "Do you think she'll really take to them?" Leo nodded slowly, still watching Bella's gentle interaction. "If anyone can, it's Bella. She's got a big heart," he replied with a smile. "I just have to trust her instincts." With a gentle nudge, Bella lay down beside the cubs, curling her body protectively around them as they squirmed closer to her soft fur. Leo and his colleague exchanged a look of pure amazement. "I guess that's a yes," Leo said, grinning. Bella's maternal instincts kicked in almost immediately. After a few curious sniffs, she gently lay down beside the tiny tiger cubs, her warm body offering them comfort. The cubs, instinctively drawn to her, pressed close to her soft fur, seeking warmth and safety. Bella's body relaxed, and she nuzzled them gently, her tail swishing contentedly as they nestled against her. Having recently given birth to her own puppies, Bella didn't hesitate for a moment. She allowed the tiger cubs to nurse, her milk offering them the nourishment they had been deprived of. The hungry cubs latched on eagerly, not wanting to let go of the kind-hearted dog, who was now their lifeline. It was as if Bella knew exactly what they needed, and her deep maternal instinct took over, providing them the care they had lacked from their real mother. For the next 3 months, Bella was dedicated to her new family. Every day, she fed, groomed, and watched over the tiger cubs as they grew stronger and healthier. Her devotion was unwavering. The cubs, once weak and vulnerable, blossomed under her care. They grew quickly, their muscles strengthening and their fur becoming thicker. As the weeks went by, Bella's tiger cubs became more independent. They started to explore their surroundings, play with each other, and even learn how to hunt small objects. They were no longer entirely dependent on Bella for food, but they still sought her out for comfort and companionship. They had come to see her as their true mother, and Bella, in turn, treated them as her own, protecting and caring for them with the same fierce devotion she had shown her own puppies. As the tiger cubs grew stronger, it became clear that they needed to be separated from Bella. While their bond was unbreakable, they had to integrate with their own kind for their future well-being. The staff at the zoo, including Leo, knew it was time for the cubs to begin living as tigers, learning from their species and developing the behaviors they would need to survive in the wild. The separation was bittersweet. Bella, ever the devoted mother, instinctively felt the shift as the cubs became more independent. She watched them grow, their playful antics becoming more tiger-like, but still, she yearned for the days when they had clung to her for warmth and food. The cubs, too, seemed to struggle with the change. While Bella and the tiger cubs parted ways, the connection they had formed remained deeply imprinted on both sides. Bella continued to watch over them from a distance, and the cubs, now growing into powerful young tigers, never forgot the dog who had raised them. Months passed, and life continued at the zoo, but one summer, a powerful typhoon struck the city. The winds howled, and torrential rains battered the zoo as the staff scrambled to secure the animals in their enclosures. Leo, always protective of his charges, was working frantically to ensure that every animal was safe from the storm, but in the chaos, Bella and Leo were separated. With the storm raging outside, Bella, terrified and disoriented, couldn't find shelter anywhere. The winds howled and the rain pounded relentlessly, and in her desperation, Bella instinctively sought refuge near the tiger enclosure. She had no idea why, but something deep inside her drove her to the familiar place where her cubs had once been. She lay there, just on the boundary of the cage, barking anxiously for protection. From inside the enclosure, the 3 young tigers, now large, strong, and fully grown, heard Bella's calls. They came closer to the boundary, their eyes fixed on the familiar dog. Despite the glass separating them, the tigers instinctively recognized her and approached with a protective demeanor. Bella, trembling with fear, lay against the barrier, her eyes filled with anxiety, but also with relief as the tigers slowly settled on the other side of the glass. They didn't see the dog who had once cared for them. They saw their mother. Without hesitation, they laid down, huddling close to the glass, as though shielding Bella from the storm. Their bodies were a barrier, offering her warmth and a sense of security as the typhoon raged on outside. The connection between Bella and the tigers was undeniable. The tigers had grown into powerful protectors, and they were determined to guard their mother, just as she had protected them in their most vulnerable days. As the typhoon finally began to subside, The zoo staff started to assess the damage, checking on each animal to ensure their safety. Leo, soaked to the bone and covered in mud, walked through the compound, his heart heavy with worry for all the creatures under his care. He had been running around, securing enclosures and making sure everything was in order, but now, with the storm passing, he was looking for Bella. The man had always known that Bella was special, but today something was different. He could feel it in his gut as he trudged through the muddy pathways, his boots squelching with each step. As he approached the tiger enclosure, he saw Bella's familiar form lying at the boundary of the cage. He felt a mixture of relief and confusion. Bella wasn't supposed to be here. But then, his gaze shifted to the other side of the glass, and what he saw stopped him in his tracks. There, in the dim light of the clearing storm, the 3 tigers were huddled around Bella. Their massive bodies were lined up, one in front of the other, standing guard like a living barricade. They were still, their eyes locked on Bella, whose own gaze remained fixed on the glass separating them. For a long moment, the man just stood there, stunned by the sight. The tigers, once playful cubs, now fierce and wild, seemed to be protecting her. Bella lay there, trembling from the remnants of the storm, but a sense of peace seemed to settle over her as the tigers kept their watch. She wasn't alone. They were here with her, just as they had been when they were cubs. But this time, the roles had reversed. The tigers were now the ones offering protection. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, snapping a photo of the unlikely scene before him. He knew it was something he would never forget. As the last of the storm, Cibella Diaz drifted away, Leo stood up slowly, wiping a tear from his eye. He knew this moment would stay with him forever. "Good girl, Bella," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion as he finally stepped back, leaving the 2 species to share their quiet moment of connection. As the seasons changed, the tigers continued to grow stronger, their instincts becoming sharper. But despite their wild nature, they had never completely severed their connection with Bella. They had become fully integrated into the tiger pride, but Bella remained an important figure in their lives. That's the end of today's story. What do you think of Bella's journey? Did the bond between Bella and the tigers surprise you? How do you feel about the love and loyalty that transcended their differences? Don't hesitate to give your opinion in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel Animals Need Love so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support, and see you next time. Dr. Clara, a seasoned veterinarian with years of experience, was no stranger to the difficult decisions that came with her work, including the gentle release of animals in their final moments through euthanasia. But when she was faced with these 2 puppies, whose fate had already been sealed, one thing happened that made her immediately change her mind. What made her hesitate? Did the puppies, who were about to lose everything, react in that crucial moment? Stay tuned for today's video in Animals Need Love and find out the answer. Dr. Clara Nguyen arrived at the Healing Paws Animal Shelter on a quiet, overcast Monday morning, the kind of day that felt heavier than most. She had spent the weekend recharging, but as she stepped through the door, the familiar weight of her responsibilities quickly settled back onto her shoulders. Today, there was no escape from the hardest part of her job. As Clara walked toward her office, she was met by Sarah, one of the shelter's nurses. "Dr. Clara, we've got 2 new cases," Sarah said quietly, her voice tinged with sadness. "The puppies, Bella and Leo, they're not responding to treatment. The decision has been made. They're scheduled for euthanasia today." Clara paused, her hand resting on the doorframe of her office. "I see. Thank you, Sarah," she replied, her voice strained. She could already feel her heart sinking. "They've been through so much," Sarah continued. "I know you've done everything you can, but they're just not getting any better." Clara slowly made her way to her office, her footsteps measured and heavy. She pushed the door open, the familiar creak of the hinges greeting her. The room felt colder than usual, the silence almost suffocating. She moved to her desk and sat down, the chair creaking under her weight. Her hands rested on the surface, but her mind wasn't with the papers in front of her. Instead, she leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes, letting out a long breath as she let her mind wander. The faces of Bella and Leo filled her thoughts. She could still see them clearly, their tiny, frail bodies huddled together in the back of the shelter's clinic when they first arrived. It had been a week ago, but it felt like a lifetime. They had been rescued from a construction site just outside the city, abandoned and alone, no more than a few months old. Their fur was matted and dirt-streaked, their ribs visible beneath their thin skin. They had been barely clinging to life, too weak to stand on their own. Clara remembered how she had felt when she first saw them. Bella had been the first one to react to Clara's touch, her eyes wide with terror, but still holding a spark of trust. Leo had been more hesitant, his tiny body trembling as he cowered behind his sister. It wasn't unusual for puppies in such conditions to be scared of humans, but Clara had noticed something special about the two of them. Despite their fear, they had clung to each other as if their bond was the only thing that could keep them alive. From that moment on, Bella and Leo became inseparable. They refused to sleep unless they were curled up together, their tiny bodies forming a warm, protective circle. Clara had often watched them, marveling at the strength of their connection. It reminded her of the very thing that brought her to this work in the first place, the belief that all animals deserved a chance, that love and care could heal even the deepest wounds. But no matter how hard the team worked, no matter how many treatments and medications they administered, Bella and Leo's health had not improved, and now, after days of desperate care, it seemed that there was no way to save them. Opening her eyes, Clara looked at the clinic door, knowing the two dogs were there. She had promised them, in her heart, that they would never be alone again. But now, the question was whether she could keep that promise, or if the only way to truly end their suffering was to let them go. The thought of it tore her apart. Clara walked into the kennel, the sound of her footsteps muted by the soft whimpers of the two puppies. Her heart weighed heavy with the decision that had been pressing on her mind all morning. But as she entered the small space where Bella and Leo lay, something stopped her in her tracks. The sight of them snuggled so closely together, their tiny bodies curled up against one another for warmth and comfort, struck her with a pang of emotion she hadn't expected. Despite their condition, they seemed peaceful, their breathing synchronized in a way that made Clara pause. Her emotions were a tangled mix of sadness, hope, and an unexpected tenderness. Seeing them like this, so attached, so dependent on each other, made the idea of separating them even harder to bear. It was clear from the moment she stepped into the kennel that their bond wasn't just about companionship, it was survival. They needed each other in a way that was impossible to ignore. Clara leaned closer, her hand hovering near them before she gently touched Leo's back. The moment her fingers brushed against his fur, he stirred slightly but didn't fully wake. However, there was something different this time. His body felt warmer, more responsive than it had in the past few days. Leo's once sunken, lifeless eyes flickered open for a brief moment before he closed them again, a soft sigh escaping his tiny frame. Clara's pulse quickened, and her breath caught in her throat. She looked over at Bella, who was still curled against Leo, her body almost entirely hidden by his. There had been no change in Bella's condition. She was still as frail as before, her breathing shallow and weak. But Leo, Leo was different. Clara's heart began to race. Could it be? Could Leo be improving on his own? She knelt beside them, unable to tear her gaze away from Leo. It was then that she realized it. Leo was getting better. His temperature had stabilized, his coat looked shinier, and his breathing had become steadier. It wasn't a miraculous recovery, but it was a sign that something was changing. Feeling the minor rise and fall of Leo's chest under her palm, Clara lightly stroked his side. His improvement, however small, was enough to give her hope. Her mind raced. Trying to make sense of what she was witnessing, the warmth that Leo radiated in contrast to Bella's continued fragility made her wonder, could this improvement be because of Bella? Could the emotional connection they shared be the key to Leo's survival? Her thoughts spun as she replayed the days leading up to this moment. When they first arrived at the shelter, Bella and Leo had been inseparable. They had shared everything, from the smallest scraps of food to their broken, fragile bodies. But when they began their treatments, the decision had been made to keep them apart. The two pups had been separated for medical care, each placed in different enclosures for their exams and treatments. During that time, both had seemed to worsen. Their energy dwindled, their spirits deflated. Could it be that the separation had caused their decline? Clara had seen it before. Animals who were emotionally bonded struggled when isolated. Clara's heart twinged with guilt, but she knew she had to test this. Clara moved Leo to a spot away from Bella, hoping to keep him comfortable. But as soon as she placed him down, his breathing grew shallow and irregular, and his energy began to fade. Heartbroken, she quickly returned him to Bella. Instantly, Leo's breathing stabilized, and he relaxed, drawing strength from Bella's presence. While Bella, still feeble, stayed motionless but unaffected, Clara watched in wonder as Leo's condition cleared immediately before her eyes. There was something deeply powerful about the bond they shared, something beyond what Clara had anticipated. Clara couldn't ignore this newfound realization. She thought of how often she had seen animals give up when they were torn from the ones they loved. The bond between these two puppies was undeniable. She knew what she had to do. After her initial tests and observations, Clara couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that the bond between Leo and Bella might be a crucial factor in their recovery. She knew she had to test her theory further, but it would take time and more careful monitoring. So, she decided to keep the two pups together, continuing their medical treatments while closely documenting their progress and researching the potential healing power of animal bonds. Initially, the board members of the shelter were skeptical about Clara's approach. They had seen countless treatment methods, but this idea of relying on the emotional connection between two sick puppies seemed untested and risky. However, as the days passed, Clara's observations and the undeniable improvements in Leo and Bella's health began to shift their stance. After witnessing the incredible bond between the two pups, the board reluctantly agreed to give the new treatment plan a try. With high hopes, Clara continued to monitor them closely and made adjustments as needed. As the weeks went by, the results were nothing short of a miracle. Max's health, once hanging by a thread, began to improve significantly. Leo's irregular heartbeats became steadier, his breathing less labored, and his energy returned. Bella, too, who had been frail and lethargic, showed a dramatic turnaround. She ate with more enthusiasm, began to gain strength, and even showed signs of playfulness. The connection between the two was undeniable. They were thriving together in ways that Clara had never anticipated. Clara continued her research, diving into veterinary journals and consulting colleagues in the field of animal therapy. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that this emotional bond was having a profound impact on their recovery. Some studies suggested that strong social bonds could play a role in accelerating physical healing, and Clara was beginning to see the evidence firsthand. It seemed that the trust and companionship Leo and Bella shared were helping them fight their illnesses in a way that went beyond medical treatment alone. By the end of the week, Clara reviewed their test results with growing excitement. Both pups had stabilized, their vital signs returned to normal, and their overall health had improved dramatically. It was clear that they weren't fully recovered yet, but the bond between them had proven to be a pivotal factor in their healing. As Clara stood quietly by the kennel, watching Leo and Bella rest peacefully together, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. What started as an uncertain and unconventional approach had blossomed into a miracle. The bond between these two puppies had not only brought them closer to recovery, it had reminded Clara of the power of connection, love, and the strength that comes from supporting one another. With the road ahead still long, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew she would continue to fight for them, and as she watched their health improve, she believed more than ever that they had a real chance at a future together. That's the end of today's story. What do you think about the healing power of companionship? Do you believe that sometimes the greatest medicine is the love we give and receive from others? Don't hesitate to give your opinion in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel. Animals Need Love, so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support, and see you next time. Cat refuses to let baby sleep alone. Parents find out why and call the police. The young couple welcomes their first child, but they are unaware that danger is lurking nearby. The cat they adopted reacts strangely to warn them when the baby is brought home, but what will happen? Will the young couple understand what the cat is trying to say? Let's find out together on the Animal Needs Love channel. Mark and Laura had been hoping to start a family for a long time, but faced a series of struggles along the way. After several difficult months filled with uncertainty and doctor visits, Laura felt her dream of becoming a mother was slipping away. Sensing her sadness, Mark wanted to bring a sense of warmth and companionship into their home to help lift her spirits. They had never owned a pet together, and Mark thought that a cat, with its gentle purrs and comforting presence, might be the perfect addition to their lives. One day, after visiting a local shelter, Mark came home with an affectionate and curious kitten. Laura instantly fell in love with the little creature, naming her Luna. Luna quickly became a part of their lives, filling their home with joy and giving Laura something new to nurture and care for. As they bonded with Luna over the years, the couple found comfort in their little family of 3 while still holding on to their hope of one day having a child. 5 years went by. One morning, after experiencing some unusual symptoms, Laura decided to take a pregnancy test. As she waited anxiously for the results, Luna remained glued to Laura's side, seemingly more vigilant than ever. When Laura finally saw the positive result, she gasped in disbelief. "Mark, come here," she called out, her heart racing with excitement. Mark rushed in, and when he saw the test, his eyes widened. "Are you serious? You're pregnant?" "Yes, I can't believe it," Laura exclaimed, her voice trembling with joy. Luna, sensing the shift in energy, suddenly perked up. She bounded over to Laura, sniffing at her belly again with renewed curiosity. "We already have a baby," Mark laughed, wrapping his arms around Laura. In that moment, the 3 of them sat together, enveloped in a sense of joy and anticipation for the journey ahead, each feeling a part of the growing family that was beginning to take shape around them. 9 months and 10 days passed. The day had finally come. After what felt like an eternity of waiting, Laura and Mark were at the hospital, anxiously anticipating the moment they could hold their baby in their arms. With a final push and a cry of effort, the room filled with the most beautiful sound, the soft wail of their newborn daughter, Mia. Mark's eyes widened with disbelief and joy as he stood by Laura's side, holding her hand tightly. When they arrived home, Luna eagerly waited by the door, her tail flicking. Laura knelt down, excitedly greeting her. "Luna, we're back!" As they stepped inside, Luna rushed over, sensing something significant had happened. Laura held Mia close while Mark set the car seat down. "Okay, Luna, come here. We want you to meet someone special," Laura said warmly. Mark unbuckled Mia and lifted her out. Luna's eyes widened with curiosity as she approached, her nose twitching. Laura extended Mia towards Luna, letting the cat sniff the tiny face. "Meet Mia, Luna. She's your little sister," Mark said, smiling as Luna cautiously inspected the baby. Luna sniffed Mia's blanket, then let out a soft meow, her eyes wide with interest. "See? She likes you." Laura laughed, her heart swelling with love. Mia cooed, reaching out, and Luna leaned in, gently brushing her nose against Mia's hand, instantly connecting as if she understood her new role. As the days turned into weeks, Laura and Mark settled into the rhythm of parenthood with Mia, navigating sleepless nights and endless feedings. To ease their burden, they hired a caretaker, Clara, who arrived full of enthusiasm and experience. During Clara's orientation, their cat, Luna, watched her with narrowed eyes, suspicious of the newcomer. Laura couldn't help but notice the intensity in Clara's gaze whenever she spoke about children. "I've always loved working with little ones," Clara said, her voice brightening with passion. "There's just something special about them." Yet beneath Clara's enthusiasm, Laura sensed an unsettling edge. Laura shook off the thought, attributing it to nerves. Clara genuinely seemed eager to help. As Clara cuddled Mia, Luna suddenly leapt onto the couch, growling protectively. "Wow, I didn't know she had it in her," Clara exclaimed, her surprise evident. But Laura caught a flicker of annoyance in Clara's eyes. "Yeah, she is very attached," Laura replied, trying to reassure both Luna and Clara. "Maybe she thinks she's the only one who can care for Mia." "Luna, you're such a good big sister," Laura said, scratching her ears gently. "You have to trust Clara too." Gradually, Luna began to relax, though she continued to watch Clara closely whenever she interacted with Mia. One sunny Saturday, Laura and Mark decided they needed a break. After weeks of sleepless nights and the constant demands of a newborn, they felt it was essential to reconnect as a couple. With Clara scheduled to take care of Mia, they planned a simple lunch date at their favorite cafe. They both felt a flutter of excitement at the prospect of some time alone, something they hadn't enjoyed since Mia's arrival. They had a great time on their date that night. However, Clara called in the middle of dinner to ask them to leave. When she put Luna in the living room, she tried to bite her, she said. Clara didn't know what to do when the cat lost its temper. When Mark and Laura's date got over, they went home to help her. When Laura and Mark returned home, they found Mia peacefully asleep in her crib, the gentle rise and fall of her tiny body bringing a sense of calm to the room. Clara was sitting on the couch, watching television with an air of tension surrounding her. As the couple stepped inside, they apologized for being out longer than expected, eager to make sure Clara was okay. "No problem," Clara replied, though her smile seemed strained. She glanced nervously at Luna, who was perched protectively at the edge of the room, her ears perked and watchful. After Clara left, Laura turned her attention to Luna, who suddenly relaxed as the door clicked shut behind Clara. Laura couldn't help but notice how the atmosphere in the house shifted instantly. The tension that had filled the air while Clara was there seemed to dissipate, and Luna trotted over to Mia's crib, sniffing the air with an intensity that made Laura's heart race. "Luna, what is it?" Laura asked, a sense of unease creeping in as she watched the cat closely. Mark opened the crate door to let Luna out, and the couple stood in confused silence as they observed her movements. Luna happily trotted toward Mia's room, tail high and eyes bright, as if she were on a mission. The next morning, Mark awoke with a sudden realization. Remembering the security cameras he had installed a few months back, he rushed to his computer, anxious to see what had truly happened during Clara's visit. Perhaps the footage would provide a clue about what had triggered Luna's strange protectiveness. However, Mark's heart sank as he discovered that all the footage from the previous day was missing. Perplexed, he scrolled through his archives only to find a disturbing pattern. Almost every night since Mia was born, the video files from her room had been inexplicably deleted. Chills ran down Mark's spine as he processed the implication. Why would the footage only be gone from Mia's room? He muttered under his breath, the unease in his gut growing stronger. Determined to uncover the truth, he set up a new hidden camera, keeping it separate from his usual system to prevent any further deletions. He didn't want to alarm Laura, so he kept this new development to himself, planning to review the footage later. When he finally looked through the hidden camera footage, his heart raced. What he saw shocked him to his core. Mark rushed to wake Laura, who had just finished her morning routine. "Laura, you need to see this," he said, urgency lacing his voice. As they huddled around the computer, Laura's expression shifted from curiosity to horror. Tears welled in her eyes as she pressed her hands over her mouth, struggling to comprehend the evidence before them. Mark had recorded something that neither of them had expected. Who is that?" Laura stammered, pointing at the screen. The footage revealed Clara acting strangely around Mia, trying to approach her while Luna stood guard, hissing and swatting at Clara's hands as she attempted to pick up the baby. But what truly unnerved them was the realization that the footage didn't just capture the tension. It also showed Clara behaving oddly, almost as if she were trying to reach for Mia in a way that made Luna feel threatened. "We need to call the police," Laura said, her voice trembling. "This doesn't feel right." Days passed in a blur of anxiety as Laura and Mark called the police. With the police increasing their patrols and security cameras monitoring every corner of their home, they hoped it would be enough to deter Clara, now identified as Miranda, from making another attempt to invade their lives. Then, one crisp morning, they received a call from Officer Jenkins. "We've apprehended Miranda," he said, his tone firm. "She was found loitering in a nearby park, and we were able to confirm her identity and previous offenses." Laura's heart raced with a mix of relief and apprehension. "Is she going to be charged?" "Yes, she is facing charges for stalking and trespassing. We've got enough evidence now to keep her away from you and your home," Jenkins assured her. "Thank you," Mark said, his voice steady but laced with gratitude. "This means so much to us." After they hung up, Laura and Mark exchanged relieved smiles, but their joy was tempered by the weight of what had transpired. They felt a renewed sense of safety, but the lingering unease still hung in the air. Later that day, they gathered in the living room, watching Mia play with her toys, while Luna lounged protectively nearby, her ears perked up at every little sound. "Luna, you've been amazing," Laura said, bending down to scratch the cat behind her ears. "I don't know what we would have done without you." As if sensing their conversation, Luna looked up at them, her eyes bright with affection. She patted over to Mia, giving her a gentle nudge with her nose, and Mia giggled, reaching out to pat the cat's soft fur. "See? She's your guardian," Laura said, smiling at the bond they shared. "I think she loves you just as much as we do, Mia." Days turned into weeks, and life gradually resumed its joyful rhythm. Mia grew more curious by the day, while Luna remained ever watchful, her protective instincts unwavering. In that moment, the warmth of family filled the room, a testament to the bonds they had forged through adversity. With Luna by their side, they felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing they were never alone. Thank you for joining us in this heartfelt journey. What do you think about the bond between pets and their families? Have you ever experienced a moment where a pet protected you or someone you love? Share your thoughts below. If you find this story interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel Animal Needs Love so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support and see you next time.